Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you guys are new. Today's video is a really exciting one because we're going to be ranking the palettes from my favorite eyeshadow brand. This brand has honestly really wowed me. For the most part, I have tried a couple palettes recently that I have not been as in love with. They're still good, but they're just not my tip-top favorites. But I'm going to be ranking all of my Nomad Cosmetics palettes for you guys. I have 5 of them. So I'm going to be starting in 5th place and working our way up to 1st place. These aren't in any order right now. I just grabbed them out of my drawer. So we're going to be working our way up to 1st place. I am wearing one of the palettes on my eyes right now, which is actually the Provence palette. If you want to check out this look, I created it in a 3 looks 1 palette with the Provence palette. So I'll have that linked for you in the eye and down below if you're interested in this look. But let's go ahead and jump into the ranking. I'm really excited for this one. However, I'm not excited to share the 5th place with you because you guys know I really love Nomad Cosmetics, so it kind of like pains me to have a negative opinion about any of the palettes, but I'm telling you guys, they have some really, really amazing ones, so keep that in mind. Okay, so in 5th place, which is last place, currently, it cannot go to any other palette other than the Tokyo palette. And I hate to say that because this is the palette that first really interested me in the brand, but I didn't really pick it up because I already had a pastel palette in my collection, and so I actually tried 2 before this one. I ordered 2 right around the same time. My best friend got me one for my birthday, and then I bought the other one for myself around my birthday. So I got 2 at the same time, roughly. I got the America's Parks palette and the Iceland palette at the same time. And then that was about a year ago. And then just recently I picked up this one as well as the other 2 palettes in this video. So these 3 are newer to me, but this one has just really not worked out for me as well as I wanted to. I've mentioned this in a couple of videos before, but if you're not familiar, this is the Tokyo palette. It is kind of their pastel palette in their collection. It's very colorful and very beautiful, and I have seen so many looks that I really love created with this palette. I'm going to scoot over so I can actually show you guys the palettes, but I haven't had good luck with this one, and if you've seen my videos with it, you've probably kind of seen why. But unfortunately, this row here in the middle doesn't work for me very well. They're all satin shades, so they have a little bit of a shine to them. And for some reason, I have just been really struggling with them. But actually today, as I'm filming this, someone commented on my video where I last used this palette and told me that if I pack the shades on and blend less, that it will work better. I will try that, and I hope that that kind of helps me like it better and helps it work for me better. But for me, I really like to blend my shades, even pastel shades, like in the Give Me Glow Pastel Dreams palette, I still blend those shades. Maybe not quite as much as a neutral palette, but I still blend them. And I have tried packing this on. You guys saw when I put on the shade Lolita that the second I put a blending brush on it and tried to blend it in at all, it just completely disappeared. So I've just not had the best luck with this palette. And for the looks that I like to create, I didn't always want to top one of these shimmer shades on top. So I feel like this is really my favorite shimmer shade in the palette, which it's beautiful, don't get me wrong. I mean, I really like it as a topper, and it really saved my palette bingo video. If you guys have seen that one, it was the first time I ever used this palette. The shimmer shades are really, really pretty, but they just, I guess they weren't exactly what I expected from the palette. I don't know. I was really excited about the 2 gray shades in this palette to kind of grunge up a pastel look. If you guys want to see me use this, I'm going to have all the videos linked down below where I reach for any of these palettes. But I really struggled with this palette in both of the videos that I filmed with it. I've also tried it outside of those videos a couple of times, and I've just struggled with them a little bit. So this one unfortunately had to rank 5th place. I've heard so many amazing things about this, so I feel like I really do need to give it a few more chances. But at the current moment, out of the 5 palettes that I have, this one is unfortunately ranking last place. In 4th place is another palette that I'm feeling a little bit conflicted about. It is the one I have on my eyes right now, which is their almost newest palette, their next to newest. This is the Provence palette. It is the France palette, and when I first saw this, I was so in love with the color story, and looking at it as just kind of art, it's very beautiful, but I feel so confused with how to use this. And I have seen some really pretty looks with it, I will say that. However, out of the looks I've seen with this palette, I have felt kind of like the least inspired by any of the other palettes that I have, seeing them online, because the Tokyo palette, when I see anyone create a look with this, I love it. I love the looks I see created with this. So I'm thinking I need to try that one more, but right now it's just kind of a flop. Also, I should mention packaging too. I feel like this one has really, really cute packaging. I have a soft spot in my heart for ladybugs. It's kind of like an inside sort of like family thing, but we all, like me and my grandmas, love ladybugs. So there are here, and I love the ladybugs, love this packaging so much. I think it's adorable on the Tokyo palette. I also really do like the Province palette packaging. It's got like little glittery bits here that are a little bit raised. I really like this packaging a lot, but I will say I noticed that my paper here on my mirror doesn't sit down, so I'm not really sure if there just isn't enough glue on it or something, but even if I press it and hold it down, it just doesn't stick. So something to do with the glue there. But, you know, it's not the end of the world, and honestly, I don't notice it that much, but it's something to point out that mine does look like that. I do really like that there's no satin shades in this one. You have the middle row that's all shimmers, and then everything else is matte. So I do actually really love the layout of this, and I like how each column has its own kind of color story. But the look I created today, I feel like I could have created with the Huda Mercury Retrograde palette, and if I'm going to create a look like this, I feel like I'm more likely to reach for that one. I also kind of already duped that palette in my own collection when I purchased the Profusion Ethereal palette for $10. This is also a really great palette. So as far as the look that I currently have on, I don't need this palette to create that kind of a look. So if I'm kind of covering up these shades, because those are the ones that I feel like are a little bit more dupeable in my collection, I'm still working on this palette. I do really like it. I think it's very pretty. I really like the packaging, and the color story of it is very beautiful, and I think it really makes sense for the theme. But I'm just kind of realizing maybe I need to really look at a palette and think, what 3 looks would I create with it? I typically feel like really inspired to create a certain kind of look, and I can kind of see it, and then I try and recreate it. But with this one, I felt like I went in pretty blindly every single look. So I'm just not sure. I feel like the 2 of these are definitely, like, these 2 are on the bottom, and then there's like a clear, my dog just jumped up on the bed. Lay down, buddy. Lay down, Henry. I definitely feel like these 2 are very clearly the bottom of the list for me, and then there's like a very distinct line because I love the other 3. These 2, I just feel like I need to figure out how they're going to work for me. I definitely feel like there's going to be a learning curve with the Tokyo palette, but as it stands right now, this is how the ranking has turned out for number 4 and 5. But let's jump to the 3 that I love from the brand, and I think you might be surprised. But 3rd place is going to the Iceland palette. Now, this is the prettiest packaging. I love the packaging of this palette, but on the inside, it is kind of confusing. I love this palette, okay? Like, anytime I dip into it, I love the look that I create from it. However, I get the theme, but I have actually mentioned this before. I don't like this column in the middle. I find it to be so extremely confusing, and part of me kind of wants to see, I don't know if these pans are magnetic, but I kind of want to like shift this column to the end so that I can have like a really cohesive color story, at least for the 12 over here. So I don't really love this column. That being said, I love all of the other shades, and these aren't bad shades. It's just as far as the color story goes, I just cannot wrap my head around it, I guess. And I hardly ever reach into these unless I've kind of like made myself try and use them. But I love all 6 of these shades, and I love all 6 of these shades so much. So let me show you some swatches from this one. I really think that these are gorgeous. Oh my gosh, I love this matte shade here called Odin. It's so pretty and also so unique, I feel like. I also really like this one, which is like a bluish purple, but I love these shades so much. I really love these so much. I mean, I love them. I don't know. But this is in 3rd place, and it didn't rank any higher because it is so colorful that I hardly ever wear it, if I'm being honest. It's just really intimidating to me. I don't know, but I really do love this shade. I also really love this shade. I love all of them except for this column right here. So that's why it's in 3rd place, because 3 out of 15 shades in here are just like not for me, not my cup of tea, but I definitely get you know, the theme of it. But I feel like if I opened up this palette and it was like completely, you know, blue and green and maybe a little bit of purple, I'm okay with that. Without this column, this was replaced with something kind of similar to the other ones, it would rank higher. I really feel like it would. I love it so much. Where you might be surprised though, is that my number 2 spot is going to the Cartagena palette. This one is very new to me, as are the 2 in the lowest spots, but I love this palette. I mean, even just looking at it now, I already want to film another video with it. I want to use it tomorrow. Like, I want to use it all the time. I love this palette. How gorgeous is this? I feel like I really missed out on this when it first launched. I didn't actually know about the brand when this first launched. I learned about it a little over a year ago. It was the first time I'd ever heard of the brand, and I'm so glad that I did. Oh my gosh, I have been so into warm tones lately. I know you can't tell by my look today. This is like very 6 months ago me, I feel like, but my style has completely changed. I feel like this year I'm so into warm tones. I don't even know who I am anymore. But last year you would have seen me in the look just like this about 50 times. Easy for sure. But I've been so into warm tones, and this palette has really, really wowed me. But the formula in this palette is honestly just so incredible. I really love that we have a couple lighter matte shades to really kind of tone down the palette if you wanted to. I love this so much. I'm so glad that I picked this up. And even though the Tokyo and the Nomad palette are in the bottom part of this ranking, I wouldn't have picked this palette up if I hadn't already been ordering those. So I'm kind of okay with it because I got to pick up this palette. I know that I wouldn't have chosen this palette if I were only going to order one, but these shimmers are honestly just so pretty and I really love them. I especially love this golden one too. I really just love all of these. I think that they're just stunning. They're so amazing. And of course the matte shades too are so creamy. This palette and the next one, these are the reason that I need them to come out with just like a basic neutral palette, because their formula on their more kind of like standard or neutral sort of shades, other than their pastel ones, really is all I'm saying, are so incredible. Like, these are like the best of the best. These matte shades are so unbelievably creamy and blendable. I mean, they're just beautiful. They're so amazing. I love them so much. I need them to create a neutral palette because of this. Like, this is like neutral, but like really poppy. No, I need like a basic neutral palette. If they would come out with like 2 neutral palettes and come out with a lighter version and a deeper version to where like whatever your preference is in the neutral realm, you can get one. Also love this packaging. I think it's so cute. Definitely fits the theme. They all have kind of the same backing on there, but I love this one so much. No problem with the mirror here. Obsessed with this palette. I mean, seriously, it's just perfection. But one that I love just a little bit more, if you haven't guessed it, the last one, number 1, my favorite Nomad palette in my collection is the America's Parks palette. This is the first one that I ever tried. I absolutely love this palette. I'm obsessed with the packaging of it. It is probably my favorite packaging out of all of them. Even out of my packaging favorites, the top 3 are these, at least for the outer cover of them. I also really like the Tokyo one, but this one I think just has to be my favorite. I love it so much. I love America's Parks. I love going to national parks and state parks, and this palette just screams national parks to me. It's so beautiful. I love this. It's so perfect for fall. I love using this in the fall. I used this so much last year in the fall specifically, but I use it all year round. It's so beautiful. It's like muted jewel rainbow tones. So beautiful. Again, I'm just so in love with this palette. I will say, this is one of the most underrated shades in my entire collection. I love this brown shade so much. It's like the perfect brown shade. It's not too warm. It's not too cool. It's like very neutral, and it just goes perfectly with this entire palette. I love this palette so much. I really love the shimmers in here. I seriously think that they're so beautiful. I reach a lot for the kind of bronzy gold shades. I also really like the 2 over here. This really silver one is also really nice, but this is my favorite. This is the best Nomad palette that I have tried to date. I love it so much. The greens are really fun in this palette too. Oh my gosh, it's so good. This palette is just incredible. Absolutely love it. I honestly don't have a negative thing to say about this palette. I also don't have a negative thing to say about the Cartagena palette, which is not the way that you say it. I know that, okay? But when I'm speaking in English, I just feel like I always pronounce everything like the way that you would read it in English. I don't know, but whatever. I just don't have anything to complain about this one either, but I just think that they're honestly just so perfect. But I do lean a little bit more towards this one just because it's a little bit more kind of muted. I don't know though, you guys. Maybe if I'd had this one longer, it could have had time to kind of pass the America's Parks palette, but the two of these are my favorite Nomad palettes ever. I just absolutely love them so much. If I could recommend any two to you guys, it would definitely be the two of these. I feel like you have so many options with these palettes too, because at least for me, I'm more likely to lean more towards the neutrally kind of everyday sort of wearable shades. Even though they've got some bright ones in here, these are just in general, in my opinion, a little bit more neutral leaning. Whereas up here, you're gonna have like a muted color option, which is so my style. I just don't really ever reach for like a classic rainbow, like really bright and really bold. I really like more muted things, more pastel things. When they perform really well, like that Give Me Glow Pastel Dreams palette I'm obsessed with. But as far as these palettes go, I just cannot stop reaching for them. I love them so much. And honestly, like, this is why I love Nomad so much, because their formula is seriously next level. I might have like a few things with the Tokyo palette I'm trying to figure out, but other than that, like, that's the only thing like formula wise I could ever complain about with this brand at all. Because even the Province palette, this is more of like a me thing with the color story, just like not really like inspiring so much right now for me. Maybe in 6 months I'll be so inspired by this palette and I'll reach for it all the time. This one's also a little bit nostalgic for me though, because my husband and I actually got engaged in Paris, so in the same country as where this is from. So I think that that's really cute. And of course, since this one's already really nostalgic to me, because I went on a couple of road trips with my grandparents back in the day, and we went and toured a bunch of national and state parks. So it just really brings back great memories, and I love it for that. So this brand in general is like very nostalgic for me. It reminds me of like really happy times, which I just really appreciate. The brand is a smaller brand in general, and I honestly really appreciate that, because the founders of it is a couple, and Felicia is one of the founders of it, and she is just so nice, and she like actually takes the time to message her customers. When I was first trying to look into the company, she really kind of let me know what her formula was like. She was very honest about it and let me know kind of how their formula is. Said that, I think what it was is that she was saying that her powders are a little bit more powdery. They're gonna have a little bit more kick up in the pan, but that they do that so that it's more blendable, and I completely agree with that, especially in this palette here and the Iceland palette. I have noticed how blendable they are. I've had the longest amount of time to really work with and play with these and really get to know them, so I really do agree with that. Also, the packaging on this one is just phenomenal. I never have any sort of a problem with it lifting or anything like that. I think this one's on par with my two oldest ones, which is why it ranked in between the two. So I really love this one too. Honestly, I feel like once I have this one longer, they're gonna be really neck and neck, and they might kind of like switch around for first place. But right now, those are the rankings of my Nomad Cosmetics palettes. If you guys have any palettes from Nomad, let me know down below which one is your favorite and how you would rank the ones that you own. Also, let me know if you're interested in trying Nomad. If I could suggest any of them to you, this is the order that I would suggest them in, is this video. I definitely suggest this brand as a whole, and I'm really excited to see what they continue to come out with. It's not a brand that I pick up every single palette from. There's actually no brand that I pick up every product from, but to own 5 palettes from this brand puts them at #1 for the most amount of palettes from any brand that I own. Hopefully I'll get a little bit of a better feel for the Tokyo palette, but nonetheless, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this ranking video. If you did enjoy it, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you want to see more content from me. Don't forget to check out the videos I have linked below where I've used all of these palettes on my channel. I'd love for you guys to check out some looks that I've created with them, because they're some of my favorite videos. But with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!